Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's Tuesday, it's December 22nd. It is 2020, and we have two NBA games to talk about here on today's podcast. That is not an error. That is not a mess up. It is NBA season. We get kicked off with two games, and there's only one way to kick off NBA season, and that is to bring our good buddy, the Chief Justice 06. Will, how are you doing, my friend?
Dude, I am so excited. Not even just for NBA season, just to get to do some pods with you. I mean, I feel like we haven't done a pod since, coronavirus kind of started. And I know we did maybe one or two, but dude, I'm just pumped to be able to hang out with you on the pod again and try to provide the people some info, help them make some money. Definitely excited this NBA season. And they're kicking it off with the bang as they do every year, $1 million up top. Can't wait to see if we can bank this thing solo. With so many entries that are going to be fired in there.
Yeah, I have so many tickets to FanDuel that I've won through contests. So I'm mainly going to be playing on FanDuel for opening night.
Yeah.
You know this. We've talked about it before. I hate anything under like 4 games for NBA. Like, I hate it. So when there's not 4 games, I typically will not play a ton. So, hey, listen, there's late swap on both sites now. There's a ton. So, Will, we have 2 games. It's been a while. We're gonna shake it down and give a first look. Again, make sure if you are an RG premium member that you're paying attention to Discord. You're watching Crunch Time. We are giving a first look. This podcast is a first look. Everything can change 5 minutes before lock. So
yes,
we're just kind of, we do our thing. And if you haven't listened to the podcast before, then welcome, because it's a ton of fun. And like I said, we are a first look podcast for anyone that's new. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you guys listening. Let's get into it, Will. We go game by game, and here we go. We got Warriors and the Nets, 231 total. Brooklyn favored by 7.5. It's the new look. Officially new look Brooklyn Nets, and the Golden State Warriors without Klay Thompson, without Draymond Green. We know Draymond's not going to play in this one. We know Allen's Logic is not going to play in this one. And then Nicholas Claxton on the other side is out. So let's start with the Warriors. Will, what are you looking at here on Golden State?
Well, man, for me, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with James Wiseman. And look, obviously Curry is the guy in this offense right now. I think Wiggins is going to have a good game. But to me, I think this Wiseman news is pivotal, man. And the reason why I say that, I read some just a little blurb on Kerr talking about the fact that he likes where Wiseman is. Feels like, he's definitely their long-term starter. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to start tomorrow night. But listen, it wouldn't shock me. Like, that's something I'm trying to watch heavily. Is Wiseman going to get the start? If so, I definitely think he's going to be on my radar in terms of center play. And I know that's probably not how we thought we would kick off this podcast. But James Wiseman is 4,900. I mean, Gasol's 4. Anyway, I don't want to skip around. But Wiseman at 49, this could be huge for us. We haven't seen him play. We know he's going to, I think he's going to rack up the defensive stats if he does. So he's a guy I've got my eyes on. But, of course, this team revolves around Curry. I think it revolves around Wiggins. If you saw them play in the preseason, Wiggins is going to be what Wiggins is. He's going to be a scorer, and let's hope he can put up some peripherals to help this team out. So that's where I am. Wiggins is a guy I do like, but Wiseman is kind of a guy I'm sitting on right now. If he starts, he's in my lineup.
Yeah, Curry even played really solid minutes in preseason down the small preseason that we had. Wiggins played 31 minutes in that last preseason game. I think minutes wise, I think your safest bets minutes wise on the Golden State Warriors are the big 3: Curry, Wiggins, Oubre. Those 3 guys are going to be on the floor. If this game stays competitive, it's likely those 3 guys playing well. Pascal has shown us in the past that he could be kind of a point per minute guy when he gets the time. My biggest issue here with Pascal is he going to be able to guard Kevin Durant? whoever gets to start at center is interesting on FanDuel, Looney or Wiseman, like you've talked about. So, that's obviously a situation we're paying for or paying attention to. Well, there's one more guy that I wanted to kind of bring up here. Technically, there's two guys that I wanted to bring up because me, I'm always about that sixth man. Who's going to be the high usage bench guy? And when I look at this roster, there's only like two or three guys that I think can like create and like make usage on the second team actually work. And I think like Bazemore's super interesting. And do we go down the well of maybe looking at like a Marquise Chris or a Brad Wanamaker in these tournaments? Like, it's a 2-game slate. You're going to have to get different to, solo ship these millionaire tournaments or any of the big tournaments. This is more tournament talk, Will, but I think like Bazemore is the guy that I feel like can be that usage monster on the bench and could play 20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah, man. I like Bazemore. I like that call. You're talking about a 2-gamer, basically a showdown on steroids. Definitely like the call on Bazemore. I thought about Jordan Poole as well, but I don't think I'm going to play Brad Wanamaker. Now, look, here's the deal with Brad Wanamaker, though, Stevie, and I'm so glad you brought this up. This may be a different Brad Wanamaker than we saw in Boston. And I'm not saying he's going to go out there and average, a point per minute, but I'm saying I feel like the opportunity is going to be there a lot more than it was in Boston for him to maybe play 25 minutes a game typically. And if so, he's a guy on a first game slate. If he gets 25 at 3,300 or the minimum, on FanDuel or wherever he is, I mean, that could win you a tournament easily. So, and Wanamaker's probably going to have sub 10% ownership on this slate. So I mean, probably maybe even sub 5. So I like that call a lot. Wanamaker, I do think Bazemore get some ownership, but Wanamaker, I don't think his is going to be nearly as high as anyone else. So I like that call a lot.
Listen, I think Curry's like, I don't want to I want to harp on Curry one more time. I think Curry is a fantastic play. Both these teams in the preseason played extremely fast. I don't want to look into preseason stats or defense or any of that stuff. I think it's way too early. I want to play the guys that can get buckets, and Stephen Curry can get buckets. Hey, Kevin Durant can get buckets too, Will. Him and Kyrie obviously set up as great plays here. One of the highest or the highest implied team total on the slate. What do you like here for the Brooklyn Nets?
Well, and I didn't mention this earlier. I'm gonna combine the two. Curry's probably about as close to a lock button as there is on FanDuel. Same thing with KD at 8,500. I mean, it's that to me, that's lock button city. On DraftKings, obviously, we feel like the prices are more where they should be. We got Durant at 98 and Curry, I think, is 93. I still think Durant's going to be a monster. He's only power forward eligible on DraftKings this season, at least right now. So we'll kind of have to see what kind of construction we can come up with. But I think Durant's going to be a fantastic play. First game out of the season, playing his old team. I think the NBA set this up really well. So I like Durant here. I think he's a great play. My concern with Brooklyn is, what are we going to do with Karis LeVert as he started emerging, and now he's got two usage monsters there? Are they going to stagger these guys? Are they going to, try to play one with LeVert and kind of let LeVert kind of run it when they leave? I don't know, but he's still a guy. I think a first game out of the gate. Yeah, I do think he's maybe slightly overpriced, but I think, he's a guy we want to look at, because if he can get the ball in his hands, without some of these guys on the floor, we've seen what he can do. So he's a guy, even though, he's sandwiched in between the two stars, I definitely think we want to get some exposure to Karis LeVert. I mean, the guy's just got immense potential, and hopefully he can keep that going with Curry. I mean, with Kyrie and KD.
I mean, he's probably one of the better leverage plays on a 2-game slate. Everybody going to be trying to jam in KD and Kyrie. And I'm not saying that's the wrong move. I'm just saying, when you're looking at large field tournaments, and if you're playing Curry in one of his pieces and you're wanting to run it back with some Brooklyn Nets, like, a lot of people are going to be looking at, KD and Kyrie and all right, let's get different. Let's throw LeVert in there instead of one of those two guys. I don't think you play all three. I think that's asking for a lot. you'd be playing three guys. You need them to have monster games all as starters, playing starters minutes. So I think that's a tough ask. Will, my guy here, one of my favorite tournament plays on the entire slate is Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, you look at this bench and you look at this rotation on the bench, Shamet, Green, Allen, Prince is there. We don't even know if Tyler Johnson and these guys are going to get some minutes. So, like, when you're looking at this bench, Spencer Dinwiddie is set up to be a fantastic, like, high usage six man playing 25 minutes a night. And I don't know what type of ownership he'll get here. I'm sure it's going to be kind of low, assuming, like, looking at his price compared to some of these other bench players on the other three teams on this slate. So I think Spencer Dinwiddie is one of the better tournament plays on this slate. And, like, you have to know with NBA going in that you're playing a guy that could easily be cold and play 17 minutes. Like, that's the one thing you got to remember when you're playing bench guys and, like, guys that are, on that second unit. But I could see, like, Dinwiddie, like, having a monster game and, like, getting the final run over, like, Joe Harris or something too. So I think Dinwiddie is a fantastic tournament play in these massive large field tournaments on the slate.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I know we can't drag out a 2-game slate, but the more I'm thinking about it, Steve, you mentioned Joe Harris. And look, Joe Harris is not going to have – just hear me out. Just hear me out.
I'm listening, buddy. I'm listening.
He's not going to have any usage, but he should be wide open like 60% of the game in this spot. I mean, Joe Harris, this feels like it could be a 7 3-point game for him, just wide open buckets. Maybe he gets 2 or 3 assists, 2 or 3 rebounds. Maybe a block, maybe a steal. I'm not saying both. I'm saying steal or block. And now he's getting close to 30 fantasy points, man. The more I think about it, with you mentioning it, Joe Harris could literally just sit there and be buried in a corner and just shoot all night, uncontested. So that's something I'm going to consider. 2-game slate. If this was a 6-game slate, no Joe Harris. 2-game slate, just looking at guys that you can put it in the hoop, and he's definitely one of those guys.
On FanDuel, I think Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan are both in play. Like, you're guessing at center on FanDuel.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I hate the fact that we even have to play a center on FanDuel on this slate. Like, I'm not usually one that, like, will complain. I like the games to be different on FanDuel and DraftKings, but this slate it's brutal when you're looking at centers. Like, so you have no idea what, like, to expect from center. Like, is Marc Gasol going to play? Center. Yeah, I know. Like,
if he was at center, I'd almost be like, hey, just throw my hands up and plug him in. But yeah.
Anything else from this game?
No, man. I am good to go, my brother.
All right, moving on. We got the Clippers and the Lakers, 222.5 total here. Lakers favored by 2.5 in this one. Really, the only injury news that we have in this one is Marcus Morris is out. He got ruled out right before we started the podcast. Dennis Schroeder is questionable, but it sounds like he's more probable than questionable. So let's start with the Clippers, and a guy that we could potentially see, already get some value and get some talk was Nicholas Batum. He kind of started in the preseason for Marcus Morris. Shout out to Andy Means for telling me that right before we got started here. So let's start with the Clippers side of things. Will, what are we looking at here when it comes to the Clippers?
Yeah, man, I think, for me, and this is going to sound crazy, I think my favorite Clipper may actually be Serge Ibaka. I like the price. I think Serge is going to be involved. I don't think that, hopefully this isn't one of those scenarios where they do like Toronto and play him 25 minutes. I'm feeling like Serge can get to that 32-minute mark. And in fact, on this slate, if Serge gets 32 minutes, I feel like he's one of the best values on the slate. If I'm starting to line up with any Clippers, for me, in terms of where I feel like it's going to end up at the end of the night, is Serge Ibaka. Now, obviously, Kawhi Leonard is the engine that kind of drives this team, the silent assassin. But Serge feels like my guy on this slate from the Clippers. Like Kawhi, like Paul George. But Serge is definitely my favorite. I was hoping I'd get a better read on what they're going to do with Luke Kennard, because I kind of feel like he's a guy that can come off the bench and stroke it a little bit. But now that we're getting news on Morris, well, that we have it already, definitely I think Batum's going to be in play, just because he doesn't have to score 20 points to get there. I mean, he's going to pick up peripherals. He'll get some assists even. This is a guy that is a stat sheet stuffer, so he's also going to probably be one of the better values. But once again, my favorite Clipper on this slate in terms of price upside, I feel like it's Serge Ibaka, man. I really like it. Hopefully he gets to his 32 minutes.
Yeah, I think Serge is a great call. 5,200 on DraftKings. Listen, on FanDuel, I think Paul George is one of the better plays on this slate, just because when you look at shooting guard on FanDuel, it kind of gets weak really fast. So Paul George being a shooting guard under 8K on FanDuel, I do think that that's definitely something you're kind of wanting to look at here when it comes to the Clippers. But, I'm probably not, this is probably not a slate that I'm like going to be like taking a stand on like Patrick Beverly. Like when I'm looking at the Clippers, it's Serge, it's Kawhi, it's Paul George. It's looking at guys like Nicholas Batum's value, Lou Williams to be different. If he's always a guy that can have a monster game, Lou over the years has kind of been affected a little bit by Montrezl Harrell as far as like, bench usage. And with Harrell being on the Lakers now, it could open up some extra usage for a guy like Lou Williams, who loves that like 6-man role. This dude had a 34% usage rate in the preseason. So definitely think Lou Williams is a guy we want to be looking at. He's 5,400 on DraftKings. He's 5,300 on FanDuel. Like you have to look at some of these bench guys. Like one or two of these bench guys is going to be on the optimal because it's a 2-game slate. Like, so I think Lou is another one we need to be looking at. And like, he's really the only bench guy that I would be looking at here. Could you take a shot on Zubac? Sure. But I really do think they are going to want to play Serge Ibaka as much as possible. And I think the Lakers are potentially going to match them, and we won't see a ton of Marc Gasol on the Lakers side, and we'll see a lot of Anthony Davis, Serge Ibaka kind of matching up against each other. Let's go to the Lakers side. Listen, it's LeBron, it's Anthony Davis. These guys are fantastic. Just about any time. You can't really talk me off of playing any of these guys or either of these guys on any slate, but once it gets past them, it's kind of murky waters, Will.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm with you, man. I think one of the things I'm looking at on this slate is KCP going to play 30 to 32 minutes right out of the gate? That's
probably
something.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I think he's in play, especially if he can carry over some of that, championship magic that he had down the stretch. I mean, I know that was, a couple months ago, but, he's their starting shooting guard. What's going to happen with Dennis Schroeder? Like, how's the usage going to work out? We know LeBron's going to have the ball in his hands. But KCP is a value play that I'm looking at. And then also Kyle Kuzma, what's he going to do off the bench? I think I'm with you, Steve, in terms of the bench play. I think that's where we win our tournaments. LeBron is obvious. Anthony Davis is obvious. KCP, not so much. And Kyle Kuzma, while Montrezl Harrell is there, Kyle Kuzma was putting up buckets in the preseason as well. He's a guy I've got my eye on. I'm probably going to try to go over the field on him. But those are the guys I'm kind of looking at. I know THT was really good in the preseason, and in fact, we've already got him projected at 12% right out of the gate. And this is a guy that would have been probably under 1% under usual circumstances, but he played so well at 12%. I don't think I'm even going to play him on a 2-game slate. And if it burns me, it burns me. If he was at like 1%, I definitely would have had some interest. But what I'm looking at, I've got, THT versus Caldwell Pope. We've got Caldwell Pope at 9, projected right now at 9%, and THT at 12. That makes no sense at all. So, Caldwell Pope is a guy that I'm really going to have exposure to, along with Dennis Schroeder, because I feel like they're projected too low, even for a 2-game slate.
Oh, it's always fun when we start the season off playing KCP and he can burn us. And
well, listen, man, you used to be the whisperer. I need a stamp of approval here.
Listen, I gave up that role a long time ago. Whatever it was with him playing in Detroit, man, I had him figured out, and like I just haven't had the success with him playing in different uniforms. So like I've given up my figure out KCP type of role, and I'll leave that to everybody else. But I do think that at 4,200, you could do a lot worse. So taking a shot on him is not necessarily, I think, the worst thing in the world. I think like so. I want to point out, like, Kyle Kuzma, LeBron has been saying a lot of great things about Kyle Kuzma, taking the next step this season. Even like Dennis Schroeder is super interesting at 5,800, because I see Well, I can already see like people being overweight on the Clippers side of things because of Serge, because of Lou Williams, because of Nicholas Batum. And like, if you're paying up for like Curry, Durant, Kyrie type, like it's the pricing is not where you can just jam in the Lakers and the Warriors, Brooklyn, so.
Oh,
I think that a lot of people might go that Golden State Brooklyn game, and that's my favorite of the two games, which could leave to some of these Lakers being a little lower owned. So yeah, so I do think it's super interesting. Just in general, this game, I think it's going to be the more competitive game. But it also, I think, will be the slower pace game. I think the game with the pace that you really want to play here is that Golden State Brooklyn game. So if I was going to like stack a game, it'd be Golden State Brooklyn. But if I was on the contrarian side, stack that LA game. But I'm going to do both. So anything else from this one, Will, before we get on to the morning grind game to finish us out here to start us off this season?
no, man, I've been waiting for this morning grind game. Can't wait. I've been waiting for this for months. So let's get to it, my man.
All right. So the morning grind game I'm going to use is the same one we used last year. It's more focused on DraftKings. If you guys want to see any, craziness, any questions kind of change up here, I'm always open to suggestions. I always think it's great when you guys give us feedback for the podcast. Will, let's get started with your favorite play under 5K DraftKings, to go 7X on this slate.
Man, I wish I had the news. I can't use the guys I want to use. But my favorite play right now, I actually think it's going to be Nicholas Batum. I think he's going to get there in this spot. So that's who I'm going to play.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Especially with the news of Marcus Morris kind of being ruled out. So I do think he's one of the safer options on this one. I was looking through and like trying to decide who I wanted to kind of end up. And I feel like we were on the same page. We both kind of wanted to take a shot on Wiseman, but without not knowing like he's going to start or not, I think it's tough. Yeah. But to roll the dice, to be different in tournaments, to be different off of Nicholas Batum, give me Bazemore to have a big opening night. I feel like it would be like the ultimate Kent Bazemore to go out and have a big game to open up the season. So over 8K to go under 5X. Who's your bust on opening night?
Oh man, I think if I had to choose one, it's tough, man. I don't know if any of these guys are going to bust. I'm going to go with Kyrie, but I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about it at all.
Oh, Irving, huh? So I think the lowest owned of the expensive guys on this slate I'm picking Kawhi, but I also feel like Kawhi is going to be the lowest owned of the expensive guys. LeBron up there, Davis up there, Curry right there, Durant right there, Kyrie right there. When you're looking in general at this slate, I feel like Kawhi is going to be like that lower owned guy that, kind of scoots under the radar here. So, yeah. But he is my pick to bust. Just saying.
You just need a Jokic on this slate and your world would be complete.
Listen, it's an auto answer for anybody that's new. It's auto. Like Jokic, no Jokic any day. Don't ever play Jokic.
Or Joey Votto, but
right?
Or for another day.
All right. Give me your favorite 6X play night before podcast, but give me your favorite 6X play.
Yeah, man. He's high. I think he's going to be high owned. I don't care. For me, it's Serge Ibaka. I've talked about it. Serge is probably about my favorite play on the slate, man. I like it. I think he's in a new environment. Hopefully, he gets the minutes. It's Serge Ibaka for me.
I like it. I'm going to stay on the same team. I'm going to go Lou Williams. I think Lou is just he's just too cheap. Give me your Let's Get Weird GPP play of the day. So for anybody that's new, we try to target guys under 10%, but again, it's 2-game slate, so it could really be anybody on this slate. But just give me a guy that you want to get freaky with.
Well, look, I talked about it, and this might sound crazy because as of right now, and maybe the ownership's wrong. I don't think we have him projected for much right now. Dude, it's KCP. Right now it's looking like KCP is going to be very low owned. It's KCP for me, man.
Yeah. Uh, I am not nor going to even try to get on that one. I'm gonna go to the same team, and I'm gonna say Kuzma. Just like what I'm
Oh, I
hearing.
like that call.
Just like what I'm hearing, man. Like this dude just signed like a 3-year, $40 million
He
extension.
did. He did.
They definitely like him, and I think like it's hard to kind of gauge what we're gonna get from him, but when LeBron's pumping you up, I'll take LeBron's word for it. So, all right. So we'll do like game selection here. I don't have one prepared. I don't know if you have one prepared. We usually do a game selection one.
Well, I don't think, for me, man, it's that single entry $40. Like that, to me, that's like a staple in these single game contests on DK. Single entry $40, man. It's a beautiful contest.
Yeah, it's definitely something. I think looking at the double ups that are single entry are definitely important. I play that $40 single entry almost every day as well. So, yeah, I think the one thing that I will point out, if you are new to NBA, try the tiers contests if you're like struggling. There are always some good tiers contests on DraftKings, and they do 6 tiers. So you're going to have some different, like Draymond is in tier 3 today. So like you're getting a free square by not playing him. Maybe some people play him. Marcus Morris is in tier 5. You can be different with that. So, you could take some ceiling guys, build some floor. I think the tiers contest for anyone that hasn't played NBA is always something to kind of look at, but I'll have one prepared for tomorrow. Like the $40 single entry call from you. And let's finish it here. Favorite over under or against the spread pick on this slate. Who would you be throwing some money on today?
For me, I think right out of the gate, honestly, I think it would be the Clippers plus 2.5. I don't think the Lakers come out flat. But I think it's a really tight spread. Should be getting the championship rings tomorrow. Definitely think the Clippers could come out and maybe win this game by 5 or so. Just right out of the gate. Just start the season off. Guys coming off, they had a really really quick turnaround. I think it's going to be the Clippers plus 2.5.
I do not think there is going to be a lot of defense played in the Golden State Brooklyn game by any means, and I think that the over 231 is juicy. Not a lot of defense, fast play. We know how Curry likes to pick or punch it and go fast. So I really like Brooklyn over 231 in this one. So Will, any final thoughts before we get out of here? We got to spend a little more time than we usually will when we have 8, 9, 10, 11 games, stuff like that. Yeah. So it was nice to kind of be able to go through things a little slower. But Will, any final thoughts?
Well, not about the slate, man, but we got a new show coming out tomorrow. I didn't tell you that. It's going to start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday night. It's called Card Stock After Lock. Don't want to miss it.
All right. I'm guessing talking sports cards?
Talking sports cards, absolutely.
All right, I'll come on for baseball season.
Yes, love to have you, dude.
I don't do any football or basketball cards, but like ever since I was a kid, I've always kind of gravitated to baseball. And Pokemon cards. Like my daughter's been getting into Pokemon cards, so I have a ton of Pokemon cards right now too. So
those things graded.
I'm telling you. That's gonna wrap it up here for Tuesday. Appreciate you guys listening. Again, if you have any feedback on the morning grind game, hit us up. That's gonna wrap it up. Good luck in your contest. Make smart context selection decisions today. There's a lot of money out there, but again, make contest selection a priority. Good luck, everyone. See you tomorrow.